Next on News 3 at 5, a new bill looking to prevent an act known as stealthing. It has the author receiving personal attacks on social media. Plus, after 2 nights of unrest in Milwaukee last year, lawmakers are looking to crack down on those acts of violence. But first, President Trump heading overseas as new reports show how he discussed the firing of the FBI director.
This is News 3 at 5.
And we begin this evening with breaking news from the nation's capital. According to the Washington Post, the investigation into possible coordination between Russia and the Trump campaign has reached the White House. That report states the senior White House advisor being investigated is someone close to the president. This comes as the investigation has gone from being largely hidden to issuing of grand jury subpoenas earlier this month. The investigation is expected to accelerate in the coming weeks. The Washington Post sources say the investigation remains primarily focused on people close to the campaign and less on the current people in the administration. A second report by the New York Times alleges President Trump told Russian officials the firing of former FBI Director James Comey had relieved, quote, great pressure on him. According to the document, the president said, quote, I just fired the head of the FBI. He was crazy, a real nut job. I faced great pressure because of Russia. That's taken off, end quote. The conversation took place on May 10th, the day after the president fired Comey. The White House press secretary did not dispute that account. These reports come as the president heads off on his first major international trip. He'll spend 9 days overseas. The first stop, Saudi Arabia, where the president will deliver a speech on Islam. As a candidate, Mr. Trump took a hardline approach, calling for a temporary ban on all Muslims entering the United States. The White House previewed how the president will approach the speech.
He will deliver an inspiring yet direct speech on the need to confront radical ideology and his hopes, the president's hopes, for a peaceful vision of Islam.
President Trump will then head to Israel and the West Bank, visit the Pope at the Vatican, meet with key NATO allies in Brussels, and hold meetings with G7 leaders in Italy. State Representative Melissa Sargent is coming under fire on social media for a new bill she's proposing. If passed, the legislation would make something known as stealthing sexual assault. Belina Jones has more on the proposal that has a lot of people talking, Belina.
Well, that's right. It's definitely started a conversation on social media with skeptics and supporters of the idea. Stealthing is the act of removing a condom during sex without permission. The term has recently gained national attention, and Representative Sargent hopes her bill will help stop a trend she says is on the rise. Under the proposal, if a partner, man or woman, removes or tampers with a sexual protective device before or during sex without permission, the act would be classified as a sexual assault. Sargent said she has already received backlash on social media, with a number of people personally attacking her for the idea.
I'm trying to stand up for people who have been violated in a really personal way, in one of the most intimate ways that you can violate someone. It's clearly sexual assault. We need to call it what it is.
Stealthing was highlighted in a recent report from the Columbia Journal of Gender and Law. The report included interviews from women who, as a result of stealthing, became pregnant and contracted sexually transmitted infections. It also uncovered a website where men promoted the act and put out there to teach people how to do it. Sargent says that deception makes sex non-consensual. Now, California is also looking into a similar law. Both Madison and UW police say they have not received any reports of stealthing. Sargent said because there is currently no law in place to protect people from the act, it is bound to go unreported.
All right, Belina Jones at our news center. Belina, thank you. One person died in a crash involving a van and school bus in the town of Salem. That's near Kenosha. Police say the bus stopped on Wilmot Road, headed to Westosha Central High School when it was rear-ended by that van. The driver of the van died. 2 students were taken to the hospital for minor injuries. A Wisconsin man accused of shooting an Amtrak conductor in Illinois had his bond set today at $1.5 million. 79-year-old Edward Klein is charged with 1 count of attempted murder and 1 count of aggravated battery with a firearm. He's accused of firing a shot out of the window after the train had stopped in Naperville. The bullet hit the Amtrak conductor in the abdomen. The state's attorney says the injuries are severe, but they hope he'll make a full recovery. Klein will be back in court next month. An update tonight on the weekend hit-and-run crash that took the life of a 30-year-old man. News 3's Jess Garp tells us more about the OWI arrest of a person of interest. Jess?
Well, yeah, this case seems to be centering around 25-year-old Francisco Martinez of Madison, who Fitchburg police say was arrested on suspicion of drunk driving hours after a hit-and-run crash with a 6-year-old in his car. Martinez is being held at the Dane County Jail on an unrelated probation violation. He was taken into custody about 3.5 hours after Curtis Bonds was hit and killed along Highway 113 north of Madison near Highway M. The car that hit him left the scene. Police say Martinez was found sleeping behind the wheel of a car on Chalet Gardens Road and refused a field sobriety or blood test.
Right now, our biggest help would be the public who may have had contact with Mr. Martinez throughout the evening, particularly leading up to that 10 o'clock to midnight period.
The Chevy Impala that police believe Martinez was driving has been seized and is being processed for possible evidence. In identifying Martinez, investigators are hoping someone can come forward with more information about where he was before the crash. Detectives are still following up on tips and awaiting test results from the state crime lab. Funeral services for Bonds are being planned for next Friday in Madison.
All right, Jessica Arp in studio. Jessica, thank you. 2 nights of unrest in Milwaukee has led 2 Wisconsin legislators to try to further define the word rioting.
Well, I think that was an eye-opener.
Well, this was the scene last August in Milwaukee's Sherman Park neighborhood. State Senator Van Wanggaard says those nights went past unrest and into rioting. Under the bill, a riot is simply defined as a public disturbance with 3 or more people along with an act or threat of violence which could hurt people or lead to property damage.
And I think you're going to see arrests being made, and they better be prosecuted by the district attorneys.
2 other bills would make it a felony to be armed in a riot, which could mean up to 10 years in prison. The ACLU of Wisconsin in part says, quote, under the absurd definition in these unnecessary bills, many families experience felony rioting in their homes on a daily basis. Officers from all over Wisconsin are in Madison to remember their fallen comrades. For the past 27 years, officers have gathered at the corner of Pinckney and Mifflin to remember those who gave the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. In honor of Police Week, the annual Wisconsin Law Enforcement Memorial took place outside the state capitol today. 3 Wisconsin officers had their names added to the memorial, bringing the total to 273, a number that is only growing.
You see, in honoring them, we focus not on how they lost their lives, but rather on how they lived their lives and the fact that they gave so freely of themselves in serving their communities. This is what makes them heroes.
2 Wisconsin officers have already died this year while on duty. Everest Metro Detective Jason Weiland and Wisconsin State Patrol Trooper Anthony Borostowski. A report from the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund puts the number of police fatalities in 2016 up 10% from the prior year. A New York City judge has denied bond for the man accused of crashing into people with his car in Times Square. We do want to warn you, some of you may find the video you're about to see a bit disturbing. 18-year-old Alyssa Elsmana was killed in the crash. Dozens of other people were hurt. Richard Rojas was in court today, charged with second-degree murder and aggravated vehicular homicide. Police say security cameras captured Rojas driving at high speeds as he ran over people. The 26-year-old allegedly told prosecutors he wanted to, quote, kill them all.
Parts of his car, the side view mirror, license plates are falling off as he's striking these pedestrians. People are being dragged.
At this point, as the mayor said, there is no indication that this incident was terrorism related.
Rojas was arrested 2 prior times for drunk driving in New York. He is scheduled to be back in court next week. Former Congressman Anthony Weiner pleads guilty in federal court in connection with a sexting scandal involving a teenage girl. The former U.S. representative pleaded guilty to sending sexual material to a minor, admitting he shared explicit images and encouraged the 15-year-old to engage in sexually explicit conduct. Weiner agreed not to appeal any sentence around 2 years in prison, but could face more time. He'll also have to register as a sex offender. His estranged wife, Huma Abedin, filed for divorce this afternoon. Next at 5, the clowns are having their last laughs at the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. Once known as the greatest show on earth, a steep drop in ticket sales is forcing the circus off the road. Nikki Batiste reports from Uniondale, New York, where the final performance will be held on Sunday.
It's one of the last times the ringmaster will speak those words. After 146 years on the road, the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus is folding its tent.
There's a feeling of adoration, pride, in the fact that, you know, I've been a part of an American institution. I'm going to be the last word on it, too.
Jonathan Lee Iverson has emceed the circus for 18 years. Now, unable to fill its seats, the show is taking a final bow on Sunday.
Oh my God, I've been to maybe about 70 shows.
70 shows!
We travel all around to find them.
Audiences have mixed emotions about the circus ending. How are you feeling about the circus ending?
I'm okay with it because I'm an animal lover.
I'm sad. I really like the circus. It's fun.
But the show has changed over time. Allegations of animal cruelty have haunted the circus for years, and after those famed elephants were removed last year, the circus's already declining ticket sales tanked. The performers will move on to other jobs and the 74 animals to new homes.
We love our animals, you know, we care about them. We want them to be happy, healthy.
This high-flying family has only a few more hours to clown around before the big top comes down for good. Nikki Batiste for CBS News, Uniondale, New York.
Those circus performers have lived 11 months a year on a mile-long train. Coming up on News 3 at 5, while the health risks of smoking are, of course, widely known, one study being done at UW is looking for a connection between smoking and a certain form of arthritis. That story still ahead.
I'm meteorologist Gary Canolti. I'm live on location in Sauk City. And if you have a hankering for ribs, this is the place to be. I'll tell you all about it along with our weekend forecast coming up in just a few minutes.